We are go. Welcome, everyone. I'm Terrence Reed with PokerOrg, and I'm here with this collection of industry insiders and professionals. We got Matt Savage, WP Executive Tour Director, Poker TDA founder, Tony Burns, Executive Manager of the Moneymaker Tour, Sean McCormack, Executive Director of Poker Strategy and Development at MGM Resorts, Dennis Jones, a veteran tournament director, and BJ Nemeth, veteran tournament reporter. What a group. Thank you all for being here. Just want to give a little bit of context before we delve into this for those who may not know or may have some details wrong about what happened on Monday down at the WSOP circuit in Baltimore in three-handed play. Maurice Hawkins was involved with the pot with the third place finisher, who they got it all in, and the pot was awarded to the incorrect person. The third place finisher made a flush, whereas Maurice made a straight. But unfortunately, it wasn't noticed by anyone in the room in the moment. That includes the staff, the players, the reporters, media, anyone. And so the pot was awarded to Maurice. Third place finisher was eliminated, and that is unfortunate, obviously. But it wasn't noticed until hours later when it was brought up to the tournament staff, and at that point, it was deemed nothing could be done. So an unfortunate situation, obviously, in a spot with a lot of money on the line that we'd rather not have that mistake, but it happened. And it sparked a lot of conversation online about exactly how we can handle that situation, how we can avoid that situation, and what media and other bystanders members should be if it were to have been noticed in the moment, even though that wasn't the case here. So do want to involve everyone here, a lot of experience on this call, and just kind of talk out what happened and maybe what we could change or adjust moving forward, if anything. So start with Matt Savage, who's been extremely vocal, and I'll kind of moderate this. Let's try to have one person talking at a time, if at all possible, but time for everyone to respond to everything and offer their own opinions and try to work towards some sort of consensus. Matt,
Dennis, were you at that event, Dennis? Was that your event?
I was, yes.
Was that? Okay.
So,
Matt, I mean, this is a tough question to start off, but Dennis, why was there no floor person at the table?
Well, there was a floor person in the area. I mean, there was three of us there, but nobody stands right over the final table and actually sweats every hand. You know, we have other events going at the same time. There's actually on that day there's three final tables going. We had the 40-40-40 final table. We had the Black Chip Bounty final table, the main event final table, and then we also had the double stack closer going. So you have three supervisors in the room for basically four tournaments, and you know, we have experienced dealers. We don't write down and sweat basically every single hand. You know, obviously if the floor is called to the table, we're headed right there directly. But I mean, as far as someone standing over the table and physically watching every single hand, it wasn't done. And we currently don't do that at most circuit stops. We've even gotten to the point with some of the final tables, even at the World Series. You know, we have a supervisor there, but we also have the up dealer standing there watching the game too, so that we try to keep two dealers at the table to oversee it. You know, people get a little lackadaisical at times, but you know, we try to keep the best dealers that are on property at those final tables. It was just one of those things where nobody was directly over it when it happened. And then when it was brought to our attention, it was basically about 90 minutes later.
Yeah, that's way too late. But so I know the dealer there. He's a great dealer. He's actually a dual rate.
Correct.
He actually works the floor as well. Why was he so fast about killing that hand? I actually been defending him through social media for the last 2 days, saying, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are questioning his ethics on that. And I just know that dealer has nothing like that, would never do anything like that, you know, on purpose. But he was super, super fast on that hand and killing that hand. So I've been trying to dispel all those, you know, rumors, but he was just so fast at killing that hand. Why do you think that's the case? And did you talk to him
I
afterwards?
did. And
Okay.
he basically stated, you know, we didn't talk about the speed of him killing the hand. We did talk about, you know, pushing the hand up so that we, you know, can see the winning hand. Maybe that would cause less mistakes. Um, he said he just overlooked it and just moved on to the next hand. He never did really discuss anything about the speed of how he killed the hand. I watched it again. It did look a little fast, and I thought maybe after I looked at it, I noticed it after he had pushed the pot or something, but or thought about it. But according to him, he didn't. He just totally spaced it and missed it. And you know, unfortunately, you know, the guy that got knocked out third, he was waiting on security to escort him to the cage, and he stood over there for about 40 minutes waiting on security. And we were talking about the hand, and he felt he got pretty unlucky, but we never discussed that he had the winning hand or anything.
Right. And so
If
I
I
want
could
to
jump,
reiterate that not only that, Chris is a great dealer. I mean, he's a great floor. I've worked with him a bunch, and
Yeah.
I've never ever seen anything. I know Tony has as well. But the in the video, he says, he goes, "Oh, I thought I had the best hand," which I also want to reiterate that I believe that he thought that he had a pair, not a flush. Some people are saying that he said that he had the best hand with a flush, but I'm 100% sure that he did not know that he had the flush. So I want to get that out there as well, because there's a lot of conversation about, well, he said he had the best hand, so why didn't he get pushed spot? And I know it's completely unrelated, but yeah, he did not push up the straight either. And that would have actually, had he done that, then all of those rumors and innuendo would be completely gone. But he didn't do that either. So
Right.
I just think that's something that all of us need to be better about procedurally, telling our dealers they need to do that. And listen, for 30 years, I've been around this, and that's always been the procedure. But honestly, if I think about it, I don't know what percentage even do that. I would say probably 1 out of every 5 or something like that. I don't know that that's a situation, but I think we need to tighten that up procedurally as well for all of us.
let's talk about that for just a second. And I
I
want to
think it
throw
was
it to one of our
some of the
other
mistakes.
TDs just to get their perspective as well. So as far as the dealer order operations, when tabled hands are revealed, it's my understanding that first of all they should push forward the winning hand, then muck the losing hand, then push the pot to the winner, and then muck the winner's hand in that order.
Does everyone
Obviously,
understand what pushing forward the winning hand means? Because it's not just their cards, it's the cards on the board that play with their cards. A lot of people watching may not know that's what that means.
thank you, BJ. Yes, correct. Exactly that. So you actually push forward the 5 cards that play, including the community cards, to identify the winning hand. And that step should happen before mucking the losing hand. So that step alone, not only will it make clear what's winning, but it also will give a couple of extra seconds before that next step of mucking the losing hand. So a couple of those
Well,
things.
why is that the next step? That's my problem. That should not be the next step. Because if the losing hand is kept face up on the table, you can move it down, maybe move it below the board to signify that it's the losing hand. But if you keep it face up, these errors are caught. Somebody's like, wait a second, he's got a flush. It's the mucking of the losing hand. And as a reporter, I hate it because a lot of times I'll come up to a table near the end of an all-in and I'm trying to scramble, and all of a sudden they're mucking the losing cards. And I've either got no hand to write, or I've got to go to somebody and be like, hey, buddy, what was the losing hand? Which is just awkward.
Is there a reason, Tony, Sean, Savage, that the mucked hand is the next step, that they muck the losing hand before pushing the pot? Or is that something that you could potentially change?
We have this all the time. Like somebody will fold, and dealers that aren't maybe as good at their craft will leave the face down cards on the table for a long time. And if you're in a pot, that's really disturbing, because that player can obviously grab those cards back, right? If they see something or do something. So dealers are taught to muck the losing hand right away. And I understand what BJ is saying.
But you're describing a fold, not a showdown.
No, I understand, but they're taught to kill they're taught to kill the losing hand first.
A
And they're
losing
always
hand
taught
is
to do
not
that.
a fold. A fold is a forfeited
I
hand.
understand.
Those should be mucked. Absolutely. But a losing
No,
hand,
but I'm saying they're the
this
same thing in
whole
the dealer's
issue
mind.
comes
Yes.
down to mucking the losing hand. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm
Now,
100% convinced.
All right.
I will say
Also,
that
by the way, this wasn't a live stream table, right?
Right.
This new procedure of bringing those cards to the middle of the table. When did this start? And it started with TV and live streams and things like that. One person says, why do we not let those players hold those cards, even though face up, in front of them? So then they can see their cards better and see the board better. And maybe he would have caught it himself. But since they're brought in, that player, they're farther away from the player. So this is just a comment. I'm going to bring up a lot of comments. I've had hundreds and hundreds of comments through social media. But why do we have this procedure of bringing the cards to the middle? Is
I
that
don't think
important
it's
to you, BJ?
It's helpful.
It's helpful.
I don't have a lot of sympathy for a player who is in an all-in situation and doesn't know what their cards are. I mean, I'm sorry, if you don't know what your cards are and a mistake happens, I'm sorry, that's a fatal flaw when you're paying for a lot of money. And that's on you.
I disagree, first of all, because
I mean, obviously we want to get the right call, but if a player calls an all-in and is, there, and then they're like, oh, wait, what are my cards? That's, you're leaving your fate in somebody's hand. Mistakes will be made. You have to protect yourself.
I can tell you what happened in this case, because I've seen it happen many, many times. That player was so focused on having a pair in his hand. He wasn't worried about the other card. He was focused on the pair in his hand. And the fact that he didn't have the cards in front of him or in his control, right? They were in the middle of the table. He, didn't see it. He missed it, right?
Well, in his control is very different because that solves the mucking problem. If they were under his control, then they're not mucked right away, and I think somebody catches it. Right. So that's a separate issue.
So we're talking procedurally. This is something that could potentially be done. I've also heard comments of a player saying that, why don't we just leave the losing hand up longer? Another procedure that I heard was, why are we not announcing both hands? So somebody said it would make sense if the dealer said, you have a pair of tens, and the other player says, and you have a straight, right? Now it gives them an extra beat. It gives you guys, the reporters, extra time if they announce both hands, saying this is a pair of tens, this is a straight, and then kill that hand, right? Would that be helpful to you, BJ?
Why are we trying to solve an extreme edge case when the obvious solution is just don't muck the hand until the pot has been pushed?
In all
That's
situations,
everything else is just adding extra stuff. It's why we take off our shoes for security. We're solving a problem that's not a problem.
Right. I think that is a big question on if that step can be reversed or changed for the benefit of keeping them face up. I'm not pretending we're going to answer that today or make the change today, but I think it is a key point that BJ has honed in on, that reverse or changing the order of those two steps just to give an extra couple of seconds of the cards face up is something we should examine as a possibility. I do want to throw it over to Tony Burns here, who's tried to speak up a couple of times. Want to get your perspective about the situation, Tony, as somebody who runs their own tour and is involved with dealer training. What do you think about what happened? And keep in mind that shortly we're going to start talking about the conversation about bystanders and media and their involvement.
No, I think that this is definitely something we can change for the better of the game all around. Help media, also making sure that the best 5 cards are reading, the pots are getting in the right place, and players aren't winning on technicalities. So yes, I think this is definitely a step that can be changed. I think the players keeping their cards in their possession in non-live stream situations, like Matt referenced to, I think this is a televised or live stream procedure. I think there are some dealers that, hey, it is a main event. It is a circuit main event. They want to bring some prestige to it. Maybe they want to bring that TV or live stream feel to the table. You do have PokerOrg on hand, recording hands, doing reels. So once again, to a degree, yeah, there is like a little mini live stream, right? So I think that all in all, the players, though, can keep possession of their cards. I think that is a good start. I think old school, you hear about the days of, I put my 2 fingers on my card as a winning player, and I'm not relinquishing my hand until that pot is in my possession. I think somewhere in between we can find the solution, and look forward to getting deeper in the weeds with you guys.
Yeah, we're keying in on a couple of procedural issues that we can examine to at least reduce the possibility of this happening. And I think there is benefit in at least examining those potential changes in procedures. And if all dealers can execute them, then it reduces the possibility of this happening, of course. Sean, I don't know if you're still here with us. If you can hear us, unmute yourself and I'll get you involved in this conversation. How do you feel about what's been discussed thus far?
I am here. Audio check. I'm good. Apologies, no video. That's all right. I'm way overdressed for this group today. I have couple big meetings. So first and foremost, I want to go back to what BJ first said about the mucking of the hands. Now, you mentioned something where you said it's easier for media to be able to see those hands. Well, you know what's easier for dealers? Mucking losing hands. Now, imagine that you're in a game where 7 players flip up their hand at showdown. Nobody wants to keep 6 losers out on the table. So the procedure is done the same way across the board, whether heads up or whether 8-handed at showdown. Dealers are instructed and taught that when you have a winning hand, announce it. And as you go through the other hands, if you announce a loser, which had this dealer done, had he announced the loser and not mucked so fast, we all agree we probably would have caught this. So we need to instruct the dealers first and foremost to slow down. This is not a race to get the tournament over faster or anything like that. Our responsibility as operators, as dealers, all the way up to your TDs and directors, is game integrity. And that's an us problem. So first and foremost, the dealer needs to slow down. I think we're throwing the bathwater out with the baby, or whatever the saying is, if we just try to completely change how we're going to tell tens of thousands of dealers how to change that very core process we've all been doing since the days that Matthew used to, I know he loves when I call him that, used to deal, and I used to deal, and all these stuff. Like, there are some things we want to evolve on, of course, but we want to be very careful with changing the whole way dealers get showdown. Now, I do think players holding on to their cards is a finicky one that I'm glad we're bringing up, because yeah, whether you're at the World Series of Poker main event final table, you're at the WPT Championship, or a BetMGM final table, I'm throwing them all in there, guys. Yeah, you want that moment to really resonate. So that's why you pull the cards in. There's that moment where the dramatic music comes on and everything. But all the way down to circuit events, hell, a $100 daily tournament happening in your backyard. People want to have that feeling of being in the big time. So I don't want to really take that away from them. That's a part of the entertainment of poker. That's something I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm only going back as far as I've been in the game, which is 20 plus years, but I think that was really a WPT thing. Maybe it was a World Series thing that started that, and it really caught on. It was really cool, and I don't want to take that piece away. So I say if a player holds onto their cards in a non-televised event, the dealer shouldn't rip them out of their hands. So players have that option to protect their action, but also if somebody flips over their hands and it's free, yeah, the dealer can pull it up towards the board and make this nice, wonderful action shot for the spectators, for the media, and for all the content we're going to create for tournaments down the line. So I'm in favor of whatever in those spots, like non-televised. If a player wants to retain their cards, don't fight it. But if they don't, bring the cards up. It looks cool, man. But yeah, this will be an interesting conversation when we go into the piece about media. You guys have seen my side of this online, and even when I posted it, I said I know I'm going to get knocked down on the operator side of this, and I'm even talked to some of my friends and colleagues in the background here, and I say, hey, take your operator hat off for 1 second. We're taught game integrity above all. And we can't just subset our rules on every single person that walks, every non-gaming person that walks into a poker room. That can't be a thing. However, I am amendable here that if we're going to say that if everybody should speak up and does speak up, yeah, of course we're going to use that information. But if we're telling the media to do that, and I know I'm skipping ahead here a little, T, but if we're going to tell the media to do this, we have to have clear guidelines on them doing that starting today, because it's overwhelmingly and resoundingly that the media was like, hell no, we're not supposed to touch this. We're a fly on the wall, which is what reporters are also taught. We're talking about what people are taught in their core trainings. Dealers are taught to muck the loser almost immediately, because we've had instances where someone flips over a hand or half flips over a hand, and it wasn't supposed to be read. And I know we're convoluting a rule here with showdown, but we've had situations where a dealer leaves a hand out, which in this hand we're speaking of, the dealer didn't even muck the hand. I know operators all around were looking like the hand's still on the table. I wish someone had just flipped it back up, because it's still live, it's showdown, and it's retrievable, of course. But a lot to dissect here, and I'm interested to hear what yourself and some of these other industry giants think on this.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Appreciate that.
We're going to talk about the media today?
Yeah, that is the segue into what we're going to talk about now. For some reason, this has devolved into a conversation of what media's responsibility is, and I understand why that is. I'm being a little facetious here. The media in this case did not see it in the moment, so it was not the case at this event that the media chose not to speak up. However, that is a possibility. And as Sean mentioned, media reporters are trained not to be involved, not to insert themselves, to be a fly on the wall, to tell the story, not to be the story. However, there is discussion on whether that should be the case in this particular situation when a mistake is clearly being made in the moment. If a reporter is the only one to see it, which is a rare occurrence, first of all, but if that were to happen, what is their responsibility? What would operators like them to do? And how should they handle that situation? So we're going to delve into that just a little bit now. And we're going to start with BJ, as BJ is a reporter who's been doing this for a long, long time and has seen more than most. First of all, BJ, the question is I have for you, how often in your career has it happened that you were the only one who saw a mistake that was happening? If that has happened, how did you handle it? And what is your opinion about the fly on the wall versus being involved in this particular situation?
Probably a handful of times, and never in a case like this that I could prove. There are times I've written down a hand and I've looked at it afterwards and I've thought, oh crap, the pot was awarded to the wrong person. But that's not an issue of the dealer making a mistake. 99 times out of 100, that's me making a mistake. The hand is going through quickly. I'm scrambling down. I jot down club instead of spade. All of a sudden, wait, the pot went to the wrong person. No, it didn't. I made an error. And that happens from time to time. It's not common. When that happens, I'll do a double check. If it's not an important hand, let's say it's day one and there's still re-entries and things like that, I may just discard the hand as, you know what, I can't vouch for the integrity of this hand as I've reported it. Therefore, I'm not going to report it. If it's a more important hand, like, oh, this is kind of big, I should report it, I'll report it broadly so as not to draw attention to it. I'll just say, hey, his ace-king held up against ace-queen. You know, because I'm not sure of the suits, I just won't mention the suits. I'll say the ace-king won the pot over the ace-queen because that is what happened at the table. What's more likely to happen for me and where I have stepped in very subtly, there are some situations where you work more closely with the tournament staff. For example, at WPT final tables, I am actually working as part of production and usually with Mickey Doft. And as part of our reporting, we're also reporting live, but we are paying very close attention to where the button is because that's important to how we report it. We have been authorized by Matt Savage because originally our mandate was you do not interrupt the TV production no matter what. That is not your role. There are other people in charge of that. When we found a button error on a stream and reported it, Matt Savage stepped in and said, from now on, I trust you guys, Mickey and BJ. If you find an error like this and you're certain, I want you, provided there's not significant action, we both understand significant action, he wants us to say, whoa, 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 stop, the button's in the wrong place. And we've done that a handful of times since then. I think that was like 2012 or so when Matt told us to do that. And it's been a handful of times. But most of the time, a reporter isn't watching the hand the same way a referee would. Like if you're watching a basketball game or a football game, the refs aren't watching it the same way the fans are watching it. They're not watching it the way the reporters are watching it or the players. They're looking at they're watching that goal line. They're watching that boundary line. They're not watching the same way a reporter is. A reporter is looking for the story. I'm looking for the basic facts. I'm scrambling to write it down. Most of the time, I'm not going to notice a small error because I'm focused on different things in the moment. A lot of times after a big hand, there'll be a little confusion like, wait, did the button move or anything like this? And if I'm there and the players raise it and the dealer raises it, I'll say, hey, I had written down that the button was in seat 4 or that, player in seat 6 had the big blind. And that'll 99 times out of 100, that'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right, because he raised under the gun and it's solved. So I'll step in for something like that when there's a bit of a prompting for it. If I were at the table in this case and I saw it and I was 100% confirmed, although with it being mucked quickly, I'm not going to be 100% and I would not intervene. But if the hand were stayed face up and I saw it and nobody was doing anything, I would not feel it's my role to say, hey, whoa, he's got the winning hand, because most of the time when one player is lone, like, whoa, that's not the winning hand, they're wrong. Most of the time, the majority of the table is right and one person is wrong. Occasionally, they're right. So how I would handle that situation is I would lean over to one of the players and say, wait, doesn't that guy have a flush? Like, I wouldn't make a big deal out of it, but I'd just be like, wait, doesn't he have a flush? Or wait, aren't there 4 clubs on the board? And that way they can be like, oh, no, that's a spade on the river. And I'll be like, oh, God, my bad. Or he could be like, yeah, he does have a flush. But it's not my – and that way the player is bringing it up. I'm just kind of nudging the player in that case. But I do not want to authorize reporters to be like, whoa, I think that's the winning hand. Because I think they're going to be wrong far more likely than they're going to be right. And I think it's just going to be annoying. And it also kind of opens up to favoritism to an extent of, oh my God, that's losing hand. But you know what? I don't like that player, so who cares?
And I think that's a foolish argument. Foolish.
One moment.
Completely
let's not. BJ's been doing this for a long time, and his perspective is valid there.
I'm saying I prefer not to have you saw all the crazy accusations on Twitter. I prefer to have nobody be able to say, oh, sometimes you speak up, sometimes you don't. No, I never speak up. Unless it's still there and there's proof. And then it's just kind of.
BJ brought up one important concept, and that is significant action. And I think that's a big part of this conversation, because significant action means that, or when the next hand is dealt. Once the next hand is dealt, we're told that we really can't do anything about it once significant action takes place. So a key part of this conversation is being able to identify and catch it in the moment before things get mucked and we move on. And so as a reporter, you're put in this place where you have to see it, be the only one that sees it, be that confident that you can speak up and stop it before things move on. And that is such a rare set of circumstances. So often, like in this case, if you thought you were right, but it was mucked, you would have to stop the action and stop the tournament in order to get somebody else involved, like a floor person, and make sure that things were done correctly. And that puts a reporter in an extremely difficult situation.
One small note as well that a lot of players don't realize. A player sitting at the table is very close to the cards. They have a clear view of the entire table. The dealer has a clear view of the entire table. The media person is standing back. They have an obstructed view of the table. A lot of times we're craning, I want to see the losing hand. I can't see all of the, wait, did he really bet that much? Oh, it's there, I just didn't see it. We are further from the action. We have an obstructed view. We are less likely to see something that nobody else saw.
And this did zoom in. We did zoom in on media, particularly in the online discourse and the Twitter conversations, but that's not necessarily the argument that people in favor of bystanders speaking up are making. Matt Savage has been extremely vocal in support of game integrity, almost above all else, and making sure that cards up, we should do whatever it takes to make sure that the winning hand is pushed the pot. And so, Matt, why do you think it's so important to allow media members, bystanders, railbirds, third parties, whatever it might be, to have the right to speak up in that situation? And is that something that you would encourage?
Because none of those players are getting involved in that play of the hand. And the way I'm saying that is because the cards are face up, they're on their back, cards speak. So cards speak means that whatever that is, that's the best hand, right? Cards speak means that's the inalienable right for that person to win the hand, right? So anybody saying anything is not technically getting involved with the gameplay, right? card speak, those cards are face up, and I always want the best hand in a called pot to win the pot. And so,
what if a player calls a bet but doesn't put out the correct amount? I've seen that. Oh, the bet is 175, and the player puts out 150, and the dealer brings it in.
Yeah, you're going to touch on something here that's going to send us down a slippery slope, because the question is not necessarily should all bystanders and media members get involved in every rule. I'd like to keep it focused specifically on the all-in and call situation, because that's what's happening here. But if we were to go down this route and saying that we want everyone to speak up, BJ brings up a good point. And where do we draw the line? Do we want people to call out all rule violations or all mistakes and encourage that as well?
Well, here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see this media member or any media member take down the information and see that there was the pot was pushed to the wrong person, not say anything at the time when they could have said something, go back to their laptop and post it in their on their laptop. A mistake was made and the pot was pushed to the wrong person. And sure,
that shouldn't be done.
That will get the clicks. That's what people in media want, is clicks, right?
Not what all the people in the media want.
I understand. But what I'm saying is if they do it that way and they're being the fly on the wall and they're a journalist, they should go and report what happened, right? Terrence?
I'm not sure the question here. Fly on the wall, yes, you report what happened, but in this case, that's not what happened, if that's what you're implying.
No, I understand. I'm not implying that whatsoever at all. I don't think that happened here. I'm saying the next time this is seen and done, if the reporter does not say anything and they're doing their job, they should go back and report that the pot was pushed to the wrong person. Correct?
I think the way BJ handled it and described it is perfectly done. And in a world where we're not certain, we should definitely lean towards things were done correctly and not rely on just a note that we took on our notepad. However, part of the reason for this conversation is that video is now a thing, and it's very popular among poker tournaments, and video doesn't lie. And so if we post the video of the hand,
it can.
Fair enough. But assuming AI is not
in
involved
this case.
at this point, a video of the hand is posted and then it's noticed after the fact, I think it's disingenuous to then go try to delete that video to hide what happened when it's been posted for a couple hours. So,
okay, disingenuous. Okay, let's get into that. Let's get into that, right? Most of the people that I'm hearing from are from a journalism background, right? They're journalists. They're independent. And in my opinion, VJ would never say this or admit to it, but they're not independent journalists. And people that work for these events are not independent journalists. They're not. You're not. You're being paid by the casino to be there.
I don't claim to be. I'm a reporter. I'm not a journalist.
Right.
I'm reporting the action.
That's one of the arguments I keep hearing, is that we can't say anything because we're journalists. And that, to me, is nonsense.
I think if you manage a team, that is a wise policy because it'll cause far fewer problems than the alternative.
What's going to happen
that's a valid policy.
BJ, what's going to happen if you write down or even take a picture of it, see that the pot was, because some of the reporters take pictures of the flop and the cards are out there. If you see it, you go back and you say, hey, this hand was pushed to the wrong person. This player busted out in third place. What's going to happen if you post that on WPT.com?
I wouldn't post it. I would show it to the tournament staff and say, hey, I didn't find this until after significant action. Here's the information for you. This is your problem. As for me, if it's past a certain point in the tournament, like let's say final three tables of a big championship level event like a WPT, I am probably going to report it straight. I've never been in that situation, so it's hard to say for certain. I might do what I said earlier and just say, you know what, I have photographic proof, but I'm going to write it in a vague way and say, he had ace king, he had ace queen, and the ace king held up and the board was pushed to him. Even though I have photographic evidence that it didn't, I'll try to find a way to write it, to where what I write is technically true, and you might see me say something and the pot was pushed to the player in seat 4. Not that he won the hand, but that the pot was pushed. And it would be very subtle, and most people would read it and not think anything about it. But it would be a truthful update that would not draw attention to the error.
So let me ask you, Terrence. One of your reporters does this, goes back to their laptop and posts this. What's going to happen to the PokerOrg reporter? What's going to happen?
Well, if we post it and call out the attention that a mistake was made, if that's the point of the post, if our attempt is to be salacious, then of course it's going to go viral, such as this situation. And I think that's the point you're trying to make. Is that
no? That's not the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. Well, if we point out a mistake intentionally with no attempt to try to resolve it and no involvement of the floor staff, and we choose to go back and just make a post, then of course it's going to gain attention and traction.
Dennis, me, Sean, Tony are all going to walk over to you and say, take that post down. That's what we're all going to do.
And why?
And what are you going to do?
Why would you do
at that point, we're going to look at it and try to correct it. If it's done in a timely manner, my opinion is if you can correct a wrong, you should correct it.
Absolutely.
If the media comes and says, hey, the last hand, obviously the rules state you have one hand to, dispute any kind of problem, if you're into the next hand. But if you can correct a wrong, you should correct it. Obviously, this happened 90 minutes later. We get a message that there was a flush on board and the dealer pushed the pot to the wrong player. There's not a lot of recourse for that player because it is up to him to protect his own hand. But if my opinion at my tournaments, at all World Series circuit events, and even at the World Series, if a bystander or a media person is witnessing something going wrong, they should state it to me or to my floor staff, and let's correct it right there. Because when you're playing in this spot, I think first place was like 140,000, and the guy that got knocked out got around 70. We're talking about a lot of money. And then even at the World Series, where you're talking about millions of dollars in pay jumps, if we can correct a wrong, we should do it any way possible. And most of the media guys that come to do the circuits, they're really good, and they do a great job reporting. I've had them many a times say, hey, look, this, the button wasn't pushed, or this happened, or that happened. If we can correct it, I'm 100% going to correct it.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. And so part of my point here is that whatever we decide to tell people is correct. If we say you're always supposed to speak up, correct something in the moment, you have to institute that policy across the board. You can't allow for people to say, well, only at main event final tables or only in a high equity spots should we speak up.
Sure.
Right? So part of my concern is that in a massive field MTT where there isn't a floor right nearby, you would want a reporter to speak up and halt the action of that tournament in order to get it right. And that puts the reporter in a very difficult situation, being able to take control of the tournament. And
keep in mind that the reporter's proof isn't usually going to be a photo or a video, because we don't see those in the moment. The person took that video. They weren't focused on the suits. They were focused on framing the video I need this video to go online. I need it to be shot a certain way. They didn't look at the video till later because they're not reviewing it in the moment. Like, did the correct hand win? That's not our job. So the proof a reporter has is just their, we can't stop the action and be like, hey, I wrote ace of clubs here. Stop, stop, stop. It's just something I wrote. That's not proof. And more often than not, the reporter will be wrong.
What if you said, hold on, can I just see that hand again? Because I'm writing it down. Can I just see that hand again?
The mucked hand? The mucked hand?
The hand they just turned over. Hold on, I didn't write that down. Can I see that?
I would never say that because players would be pissed at me for saying that. I'm not asking to see a hand out of the muck. That's
BJ's right. He could incite a irate player, and I'm on BJ's side on this one.
In this case, I wouldn't mind if the player was irate because it got done correctly.
You're assuming the reporter was right. What about the reporter was wrong?
It's
And then the
fine.
player's just like,
the hand's still dead.
what the hell is this guy doing here, calling up my hand? It's just.
I think BJ's
Hold on,
system.
I'm gonna jump in here.
Well, no.
Hopefully, you guys can still hear my audio here. But
I'm just asking the
you
question.
You got to admit you're thinking of this very much from a TD's perspective. BJ is right here. If he pisses off a player, now he has a problem with operations. Now he has a problem with me. Just like the media could have a problem with me, as you're eloquently putting it, the person that's paying them to be there. The truth is in the middle here, guys. The answer is, if we get it wrong and you guys have a video of it and it's already out there, yeah, there's not much we can do to craft the message at this point. We have to be transparent and report on it as such, in unison with the property that you're working at. I would expect that if BJ saw something and it was like, oh my God, we got this wrong, there's a picture, I already posted it, I didn't notice until after the fact, okay, he would come to me and I'd say, okay, let's cater the message as such. We're going to be transparent, but he has to have the understanding of the operator in mind when crafting that message. Hell, the message might be different here at Bellagio than it is at Hollywood Hard Rock, and that's based on the operator's feeling of it, in unison with the person writing the story. Now, if you find something that hasn't been reported on, I'm not saying just bury it to the ground, but we don't need to over highlight it either. The media shouldn't take it of their own volition just to be like, hot off the presses, bad hand at Bellagio. I don't want to see that either. No. They should have still came to me or a Paul Campbell type, or even you, Matt, at some of your events and said, hey, you guys got it wrong, or because we all do really work together, we got this one wrong. I really think that the media is just as much as part of those events as everybody else that's working at the actual property. So we together got this wrong. What do we want to do here moving forward? How do we want to craft this message? Because there are going to be times where we're not going to make it the story. And then there are going to be other times where, again, the information's out there. We're not going to lie about it. We get these things wrong. That's why we have in poker rules that fix problems. Early burn and turn, boom. That could affect the whole tournament, but we have a rule for it. It's just, we tell the players it's part of the game. A deck is introduced, and unfortunately, the manufacturer had two 9 of hearts in there. That happens. You don't want it to ever happen because a dealer should have checked that deck, a supervisor should have checked that deck, but it could happen. And we have rules in place to be like, this hand doesn't count. It's like paper, just throw it to the side and move on to the next hand. We have ways of solving these problems. It's about the communicating between the media and the operator to get the message out according to whatever the situation is. Again, if it's already out there, then get behind it and say, hey guys, we messed up. I have no problem saying in one of our poker rooms, we got it wrong. We're never going to get everything right. It's impossible. Poker just has too many data points. We're not, I say this to my bosses all the time. We're not blackjack. We're not the pit. We're not where rules are very black and white. Poker is a partnership between us and the players. Blackjack is not a partnership. It's just black and white. You either make 21 or you don't. And we take the money or we give it. But poker is just not that way. There's just too many. It's just too fluid. So we just have to have the conversation like we're having now and sit down when these things happen and say, hey, we messed this one up. Trust me, it's happened. PokerOrg has come to me and said, hey, we got something wrong at Borgata. On both sides, on the media side or on our side, how do we want to look at this? And we usually will say, okay, let's fix it moving forward. And how did the information get out? Oh, it's already out. Okay, let's write a message that said we messed this up and just do it the right way. I think that's what everybody's asking, but it's not. You guys make it seem like it's just, like binary here, like it's off or on. No, the truth is in the middle. Just work with your operator to craft the message correctly, but be transparent and truthful.
And I appreciate you.
So how did it go down there at this event? Did PokerOrg say, hey, we're going to put this in video live? Because there was a mistake made on that hand? Is that what happened?
The video was posted immediately after the hand. The mistake wasn't caught until 90 minutes.
Okay.
And basically...
And the public had already seen it, yeah.
From what we get from reporters that work the WSOP events is they will come to us and say, hey, this happened or that happened. Usually they're 3, 4, 5, 6 hands behind before we ever get any information. And, I've gone back. I've had reporters come to me and say, hey, this happened. We see it. And it's like been somewhere 6, 7 hands. I can go have my surveillance guys look at it. And sometimes they're correct. and sometimes they're not correct. But at least someone's out there trying to. Our job as operators, and I think as media people also, is to get the story out and be as correct as possible. Are mistakes going to happen? Absolutely. But I don't think we should hide them in any way. If we make a mistake, we own up to it. And if we can correct or wrong, we should correct it. That's just the way I feel.
I appreciate both Sean and Dennis saying that, like, we should be open, we should be transparent, and if there's a mistake, we should own it. Because Matt, you mentioned a minute ago that you or Dennis or anyone else would come up and demand that PokerOrg or any other media outlet remove said video.
I'll go against that too. That was words in my mouth. I would not ask that post be taken down because we all know. No, Matt, look,
your casino will, not me. The casino
Matt,
will ask you to take it down.
Matt, we live in a world now where 13 seconds on Twitter is eternity. And if you go and you delete a post that's been out for I don't care how long anymore, and it's shown that you're trying to delete it or you're trying to bury information, it's a different world now. Yeah, we used to live in a spot where it's like, okay, hey, this just went out. How long has it been up for? A couple minutes. I'd take it down. We're in a way different world now. All right.
So you're asking the reporters to go and report that the pot was pushed to the wrong person?
Look, I'm not asking them to report it, but if it happens,
so you want them to be vetted first before they're put up.
Well, let's get into being vetted. The majority of reporters that go into these casinos don't have casino licenses. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, what happens when these guys speak up to mistakes? All right, obviously they're going to piss off a player. And not speaking for Maurice, how do you think Maurice would have felt had somebody said it? Now, obviously the best five should have been pushed, but who cares if it's Maurice or anybody else? Once again, now BJ is going to create some sort of animosity, and BJ is going to go around and he's going to keep reporting. And now there's this weird beef with the player because he called out a spot, right? And we can get into whether the media should speak up or not. And I'm going to give a shout out to BJ. You've done it a couple times in my career. One was at a 2021 showdown final table where you caught the button, moved twice, and on the very next hand, a player was eliminated. Right. So, and then you have the whole butterfly effect of things that have happened. That's one that sticks out in my mind. And I feel like you've caught it again in another spot. And I appreciated BJ doing that. Was he required to do that? No. Should people speak up? Yes. I'm fine with it. Come to me with it. Like Dennis said, come to me with it and let me see if I can rectify it. But are they required to? No, because let's go down the rabbit hole of BJ speaks up and it costs the player equity. And he gets on this high horse of this costs me all that equity, and there's a non-licensed, what do you want to call him, reporter that is getting involved in gameplay. And then what we live in this world of, let's sue everybody now, right? And then it opens up a whole can for operators now getting sued. Now, should all reporters now be licensed in the jurisdiction? I mean, once again, we can go down this rabbit hole, but we live in a different time where I'm not suppressing any posts that are out for any amount of time anymore.
I'm not saying it's just media people that should say something. I'm saying it should be anybody. It should be all those players at the table.
Oh man, I'm with you.
Absolutely, the players at the table.
Look, we talk about
somebody spectating. Anybody.
We reference our game to a sport all the time, and something that just comes up recently is that there was a really bad passing interference call in a college football game, and the players, the fans went nuts and started throwing stuff on the field, to the point where the referees got together and they changed the call. Am I advocating for violence to change things around? No. But, when people feel vocal enough to speak up, or they see something, I think I used the example of baseball. You have somebody that's sitting on the fair and foul pole and they see 100% with their own two eyes that the ball went fair or foul. Can they change it? Can they scream from left field, hey, this ball went here, went there? Can he shout down to the umpire and say, hey, you're getting this one wrong? Obviously, they have video replay in sports now, and a lot of those calls get corrected. But we don't have the luxury of every hand having PokerOrg standing over top and covering a hand history. We get it right when we can. I think, guys, once again, these situations happen far infrequently than they do happen. Obviously, they happen on the live stream, whatever, in the WSOP, was it a circuit in Europe, right, where it happened on a live stream? So, look, these things happen. It sucks when it happens. But I think we spend a lot of time on this. It's kind of almost like a player when he's all in the big blind. and we have to debate whether the big blind or ante should come first. It's few and far between. We move on, we learn, and this is an opportunity to learn. But I don't think that, and like BJ got into, once as a reporter, you speak up and you say it once, you better do it all the time. Because in the instant you don't start doing it, then you start to come in question, well, you caught it on this situation. Why didn't you catch it for him?
And I'll interject here real quick. Thank you, Tony. I did commit to keeping this to an hour. So for people's schedules, we're not going to continue on delving into this, but I will give everyone an opportunity to share some closing moments here momentarily, or some closing thoughts momentarily. First of all, I'd like to say that if a reporter does speak up, they know the chance that they're taking. They know that they're opening themselves up to criticism. I have seen many, many reporters made cry for getting involved, for getting something wrong, for players who are upset at them for the way they handled the situation. So it's much easier to not say something. So I would like to advocate to anyone listening to this, whether it be operators, players, whoever it may be, or other reporters, that if a reporter speaks up, they're doing so because they have the best interest of the game and of game integrity and of wanting things to go smoothly. So let's not judge them if they're wrong. Let's not criticize them for wanting the game to run smoothly. Let's make it easy for them to work with operators, staff, other players to make sure this game runs smoothly. That said, I understand if a reporter does not want to speak up because they are opening themselves up to all sorts of issues. But I agree with most of the thoughts that we want to get it right. Of course, we want to get it right. The question is, how far do we take it? Because you can't take it to the point that you are reviewing the cameras for every hand. That's obviously too far. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. Now, I'm going to give each of you five, let's say 30 seconds closing thoughts on how you feel this call went. And if there's any one issue that you'd like for us to come out of this conversation with, and of course, this can be an ongoing conversation, we'll work around the corner. Let's start with Sean, if you don't mind. Sean, 30 seconds on the clock, and I'm going to be abrupt with that.
Perfect. Apologies for the video, first and foremost. All right, I've already put my ticket into the Riverside app. So first, on the transparency thing, if we're talking about being transparent and having game integrity, it doesn't matter what the players think or feel. If they get mad, they get mad. Let's just get it right. Let's all agree there. Secondly, I agree with Matt, and you all have been on either side of this. Yes, operators will ask to have things pulled down by media. That puts us in a bad light. Yes, that is a thing. But again, let's script the message together to get it right. And lastly, on this whole thing as a whole, all we need is clear guidance from media. No one's saying one way or the other right now. And I think we can all get on board with media can. They shouldn't. They don't have to. It's not needed. But they can speak up if they see something, if they get those clear guidelines from the operators and from the entire industry to do so. We have to make that clear.
Right.
This call has been great.
Thank you very much, Sean. Much appreciated. All right, Tony, your 30 seconds.
Yeah, thanks again for having me on. Appreciate being a part of this conversation. And, I share a lot of the sentiment of Sean. I kind of got I felt like I got my 30 seconds out in my last little rant. So I stand by what I said. Shout out to BJ and all the hardworking guys. Mickey on winning the GPI award. Had the pleasure of working them, for years on end, and always appreciate their hard work, their passion, their love for the game. So yeah, if they see something, speak up, let me know. As a TD, we'll try to get it right, all the times that we can. And once again, guys, hope you have a great day. Appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Tony. All right, let's throw it over to BJ.
I'd say one of the premises of this whole conversation is faulty, that when a reporter has 100% certainty, they should speak up. We don't have 100% certainty. We have chicken scratch on a notepad. Leaving the cards on the table is the answer for this situation. You can adjust the procedure to where the winning hand stays above and all 7 losing hands come below the board to indicate that they're losing. But especially heads up, leave that losing hand out there, indicate the winning hand, pay the pot, because somebody will notice it. And if, as a reporter, hey, that's the ace of clubs, he's got a flush, I can speak out if the board is there, or I can nudge a player like, hey, is that a flush? Am I seeing that wrong? I can't do that once the cards are mucked, because then it's just off my memory, it's just off my chicken scratch, and I'm far more likely to be wrong than right if everybody else didn't see it.
Thank you, BJ. All right, and Matt Savage closes out with your 30 seconds.
yeah, this has become me versus poker media. I love poker media. I mean, you guys are so important to me. I love you, BJ. I love
I
everybody
know.
out
We
there in poker media,
clash.
and I love to get you guys stories, big hands, that stuff like that. I try and help as much as I can, and I want to be a part of that. In this situation, I still believe, and I'm not going to just single out media. I think anybody should speak up, even if it's poker media. And I'll leave you with one little thing out there to think about. Mickey, who BJ works with all the time, does the chip counts every time. If he sees a chip error on a color up, some people out there are saying that the media should not say anything about that. And I absolutely think that 100% they should. So I want media involved if they can fix a situation that is clear. And I'm going to end with this. I always want the best hand to win in a called pot.
Amen.
Thank you very much. I think we all want what's best for the game. We all have different ideas about what that means, but it's very clear that we're all on the same team. So we appreciate working together to make this game as good as can possibly be. And all of you on this call, as well as people in this community, work together to make that happen every day. So thank you for all the work that you do. Sean McCormack, Matt Savage, BJ Nemeth, Tony Burns, I'm Terrence Reed. Thank you all for being here. This, I'm sure, will not be the last conversation each of us have about this topic, but I appreciate you getting together with us here at PokerOrg and sharing your thoughts and with the goal of making things better. Much appreciated. Thank you for being here.